So today we're going to talk about grids. Grids are a fundamental aspect of design. Without grids, your design can get out of hand. Right, Ethan? Good. Logic. When you have a house, you subdivide that house into rooms. In rooms, you might have drawers, compartment, rows, and it's all organized. It's ordered. Cultures design ornamental screens and textiles. Notice that this quilt is divided into sections. Notice that cities are divided into grids. Note that the streets around here, like in Mesa, are divided into grids because it makes things easier. In Tennessee, where I'm from, we don't have a gridded system in most cities. That means if you make a wrong turn, you have to go way out of your way to fix it instead of going a mile down the road and just turning left. Okay? The grid system that is utilized in this town is really kicking. I love it. Wish we had that in Tennessee. The grid should be invisible, but its effect on design should not be. You should not see a grid in the design, but without it, your design would not be as effective. It helps to create a visual consistency in projects with multiple pages and panels. If you have a project with a lot of pages, keeping a consistent look is extremely important. Without the grid system, you could easily lose that cohesive look, especially in things like magazines and newsletters. It shouldn't be limiting. It should only be used as a foundation. A foundation based on a grid will help you build a really good system. Without the grid, again, without a foundation on a house, your house will fall. All right, so like a foundation, you have a foundation, but the house could be totally different. My house is different than your house. Your house is different from your neighbor's house. All of this is because you have a foundation and you have a similar structure, but the layout is different. Reasons. You need a reusable system for layout on multiple pages, just like we talked about. It helps give your publication a look, and it will streamline your process. Consistency helps to define brand. Now, this lecture will be online as well as, through the video stuff. So if you don't want to take notes, that's fine. If I move ahead, you can always go back and catch up. And what I just said will also be on the video. What is a grid system? It's a design that can be applied to several different uses without altering its form. Common elements in publication. You have areas for text, areas for images, a place for headlines, headers if you need them, footers. Whatever element that is going to be common on your document should be set up on your grid. When you determine the grid, you should consider text. Do I have a lot of text? Do I have a little bit of text? Do I have a lot of images? Do I have a little bit of images? Your content will drive the grid. You don't force the drive to the content. You cannot force the drive. The content must drive it. If you force it, your layout's going to suffer. Is the text long? Is it individual segments? Will there be subheads? Will there be inserts? You know, that pull-out quote that I showed you in that one. Is it a textbook? Will it be a simple or complex grid? You have to consider your art. You have to consider your photos. Will I have room for the photos? Will I have room for the art? Grids are both horizontal and vertical. It helps make the hard things easy to follow. One of the most important things in design is white space. You must define the areas to be filled and not filled. One of your areas, you should always try to have some white space on a page. It helps define it. How many of you have seen the new Ant-Man poster? I'll pull it up in a few minutes and show you. It's really cool use of white space. A modular grid is a column grid with horizontal flow lines. Together they create spatial zones. So a horizontal flow line is a vertical flow of text that goes horizontally, that you read horizontally. Okay? So you've got columns of text, but remember, we always read text horizontally. The columns help create spatial zones to help break the eye. If you have a lot of text, breaking the spatial zone into columns helps the eye read it better. It helps create balance and keeps your proportions. The greatest danger to a grid is you succumb to its regularity. In other words, that's all you do is use that grid. It's not the best. It's not the worst. You can break the grid if you need to, but don't break it so often that the grid becomes useless. Because if you do, why did you bother getting a grid in the first place? All right. Here's the Ant-Man poster. Okay, that's the poster. There's Ant-Man. That is the poster. This is an excellent use of white space. Look at that. It's beautiful. It says everything visually that it needs to say. You know Ant-Man's coming out on July 17th, and you know Ant-Man is going to be small. I think it's a really cool way of doing things. All right. Hold on just a second. Full size. Where's my full size? All right. Here is a page with regular margins. Okay? This margin is normal. Probably a 1/4 inch all the way around. This is your standard margin. Margins will change based on whether it's spiral bound or maybe you need more room at the bottom or the top for some reason. But this is also a grid. How many columns are in this grid? 1. This is a 1-column grid. This is a high folio. It's called a high folio because there's a lot more space at the bottom for the margin. Why would you do more space at the bottom for a margin? What would you put on the bottom? Page number. Page number and other footer information can appear at the bottom. Now, it doesn't have to appear at the bottom. Some publications put it at the top. Luxury margins. Luxury margins give you a ton of white space around the edges. Again, how many columns do we have here? One. One column with nice luxury margins. All right. The horse committee designs a giraffe. So awesome. How many columns do we have? 3. It's obvious. 3 columns make up this image or this page. How many columns do we have here? We still have 3. If you look at the text can break, or not break, but expand to 2 columns of the grid. In this situation, we have a 3-column grid, and we've defined white space in the bottom left and the top right. Still a 3-column grid. What about here? So I've got 3, I've got 2, I've got, who else said something else? Somebody said 4. How about 6? Because the text on the left is in its own column. And all columns have to be the same across to make a grid. So therefore, it takes 6 columns to make this grid. Your text on the left, your little cut line for the giraffe's head, takes up a column. The next column of quotes takes up 2 columns. The next column of quote or text takes up 3 columns. The giraffe takes up 3 columns. The headline takes up 6 columns. How many columns? What? We've got 4. Anybody else say differently? How about 4? Woo! Okay, now you're getting the idea. How many columns? We've got 5-ish. We've got 6. We've got 6. Remember, text can go across multiple columns. But the thing about it is your picture took up 3 columns. Therefore, your text had to take up 2 and then 3 on the right-hand side. What about here? We got 6. Anybody else? 7, 5. We've got 6. This text down at the bottom right-hand corner was the dead giveaway on this one. All right, so here you can see where items can cross columns and vertically. Notice we also have a vertical grid in here. See the vertical grid? The items at the top stop at the grid. The items below cover 2 grids. Okay? This is important. Vertical, horizontal grids. A vertical grid can be just as important. What did I do here? I broke the grid. Breaking the grid is allowed. It is allowed, but the big thing about breaking the grid is you do not want to do it every single time. What did I do here? When you go into a bleed, I'm bleeding off the page, you're not technically breaking the grid. But look at the bottom. See my footer down there? Evens and odds. This is important. This is important. If you are dealing with a left-hand page, the numbers on a left-hand page should be even numbers. The numbers on a right-hand page should be odd numbers. The numbers on a left-hand page should be even. The numbers on a right-hand page should be odd. Here it is again. This is a page all unto itself. This is a full page bleeding image. Yes, wait. Look at my grid down at the bottom. Still a one-column grid. I've got my evens and odds. All right, any question on grids? Now let me show you my Spider-Man grid, because that is what I actually did. It's just the way it is. Right. All right, so grids. Let's take a look at this for a second. How many grids am I using? 3 columns by 3. It's a 3 by 3 design. I'm bleeding Spider-Man off, and his leg is technically, and his fingers are technically breaking the grid. But if I didn't break the grid, it wouldn't be as dynamic when I do this. It's a lot more dynamic. Okay, let's take a look at this one. How many grids? It's a 12 grid system. No, I'm sorry. It's a 15 grid system. I've got 3 columns and I've got 5 rows. Okay? Notice that I do not break the grid on this one at all. Everything is within its grid. All right, so how do I make a grid? In Indesign. Indesign is the most wonderful, wonderful piece of program ever. Up under layout, you can create guides. Let's say I wanted 5 rows and 3 columns at a 1/4 inch grid. Look at that. I can put 5 rows, 3 columns, 1/4 inch. I want to fit it inside my margins, and then click OK. And boom, there it is. All done for you. Again, let me show you. Layout. Create guides. Fill out the information. Fit guides to margins. Always change it to fit guides to margins unless you do not have any margins. And then click OK. And that is how you create guides.